All right, everybody, we've got Coach Bobo here. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. First is Tom Green.
Hey, Mike. Coach Harshman talked about how you two will be kind of meshing your offenses together to build new offense at Auburn here this season. Just what's that process been like for you guys, and just how's it going so far?
Well, I think anytime you come together and you're trying to build something new, that's the fun part, in my opinion. You know, if you came in, you just threw something down. You don't get to collaborate, not just me with Coach Harson, but with the whole staff. We're able to get a lot of ideas about what direction we want to go, and it's going to be a fluid process because we're still trying to figure out the players that we have here, the talent that we have offensively at Auburn, and the things that we're going to be able to do. So I think it's not something that we definitely haven't been able to nail down in 3 days. It's going to be ongoing, through spring ball. But we're going to throw a lot at these guys of what we want to do. But we'll kind of hone down of what we're going to be as we get toward the end of spring and definitely heading into summer.
Mark Murphy.
Yes, Coach. When you're finished with spring practice, what do you want to have accomplished? What are going to be the big things in your mind? And then specifically, how hard is it to teach shotgun quarterbacks how to line up behind center? Because they don't do a lot of that in high school anymore.
No, they don't. Not a lot of guys have done a lot. Bo Nix hasn't. I don't know if he's taken 10 snaps under center in his career, but knock on wood, he's probably been the best at handling the center quarterback, and he's done good a job at that. We're not going to be primarily under center. We're not going to be primarily in the gun. We want to have a good mixture of both, and it's not that difficult. You see guys going from college to the NFL all the time that may have been in gun their whole life and go to the NFL and they've got to get under center. That's just what it's going to be. Something that's part of the Auburn offense is that we'll get under center, and those guys are going to have to learn how to do it. And they're athletic kids. You're basically doing a drop and executing a footwork under center that similar to what you did out of the gun. It's not that different. You might add some more steps to it because you're under center. So I don't see it being a big deal. It hasn't been a big deal. Now we've had some center quarterback issues, but that's always happens in spring ball, especially when you can't practice before spring ball starts, and the first time they take center quarterback exchange is when you go practice.
David,
And then,
go ahead, Mark.
just at the end of spring practice, what would you like to have accomplished with offenses in general?
Well, we'd like to throw a lot of stuff at these guys. Try to get as much as Coach likes to use the words DNA, our base offense, what we think our base offense might be. So they're familiar with some of that stuff. We're not going to be perfect at all that, but we're introducing schemes in the run game and the pass game. Through spring, introducing a lot of stuff, and then the standard of how we want to go about how. And you got to accomplish that in how we practice, and little things of how you run on the field, how you take the ball, how you shift, how you motion, how we play the game. Those things I think we can accomplish through spring as the effort and how we play. But the main thing schematically is just introducing a lot of schemes to these guys in spring ball, so we'll have a lot of carryover going into summer and fall camp.
David Pascal.
Hey, Mike. David Pascal, Chattanooga. Good to see you again. When I covered you at Georgia, you could play with tempo whenever you wanted those last few years there. But you do have elements to your game, like putting the quarterback under center. You always like having a productive fullback. When you look around at other offensive coordinators, do you kind of view yourself as kind of an old school coordinator and things that you like to get done?
I guess if getting under center is old school, I guess I'd be considered old school. I think, somebody told me one time, you got to let them know you're at the ballpark. And sometimes there's not a better way to do that is to get under center and run power at you. And that's what, we want to be. We want to have a physical run game. And I think you can be a lot more physical sometimes when you're under center. But we're going to have elements of spread. We're going to have elements of under center. We're going to have elements of two tight ends. We're going to have elements of fullback. We want to be able to do everything. We don't want to be just under center. We don't want to be just spread. We want to be a wide open pro style offense.
Thanks.
Jordan Hill?
Yeah, Mike, Jordan Hill looked like Auburn News. Looking at the quarterbacks you have coached over the years, outside of maybe a guy like DJ Shockley, Bo's probably one of the more athletic guys. What do you see his athleticism and just his skill set overall, what it can bring to this offense?
I've been very impressed with Bo Nix since I've been here. And whenever I got here, I can't remember the exact date. The first of the year, just his work ethic, number one, in the off season, conditioning, the weight program, and the stuff we did with Coach Pitt and the strength staff, and how hard he works. And quarterbacks usually they work hard when they're out there. They're one of the hardest workers on the team. But he has an athletic skill set where he competes with the skill guys on our football team, and it's very, very impressive. His athletic skill set. We've had 3 practices and has shown up a couple times, but he's a guy that is going to make plays naturally because of his skill set when things break down. Then have an element where you design stuff for him. 2 in your offense where he might be able to threaten the defense with some quarterback run game, but the ability to when to throw the ball downfield and when things are covered to pull it down and run, I think is an added dimension that I think defensive coordinators. You talk to any defensive coordinator, is that quarterback that can pull the ball down and run when you've got everybody covered, and that's just I think it's a bonus for Auburn offense. And Bo's been focused on him, controlling what he can control, and that's cleaning up his footwork. It's trying to make the right progressions and throwing the ball on time. And letting his athletic ability take over just off of instinct, not necessarily looking to run. And been really proud of how he's worked and how he's progressed. And we've only had 3 practices, but I could truly say I think he's come in every day and tried to get a little bit better every single day, and I expect the same thing today from him.
Bill Cameron?
Coach Bill Cameron with the Drive on ESPN 106.7 here in town. Talk about your receivers. I know you don't have all of them out there, but a few of them looked like they made some nice plays on Saturday. Just what do you think about what you've seen through the first few days?
Well, like any other position, we're a work in progress right now with day 3 and a new scheme, and there's a lot of mistakes that are happening every day. But I will say this about the receivers: they've come out and improved every day and tried to work hard. There's little things that we've got to clean up, but we've got some size at that position with Elijah Cannon and Kobe Hudson. They're bigger guys. Javar Johnson, number 6, has impressed the first couple of days. His ability to come off the ball, and he's made some big plays in practice 2 and practice 3. The thing we got to look for those guys is a continued improvement from them. The thing when you do get in some 12 personnel, you're going to get more single high coverage and stuff like that. And when you do have a quarterback that can run the ball, you're going to get more. You might get a little bit more single high coverage, and that gives them one-on-one opportunities. But I think playing faster is one thing that we got to do, and I think that will happen. The more practice we get in, the more they understand what we're trying to do.
Nathan King?
Hey, Mike. Going back to your time at Georgia and just the experience that you've had, having a good freshman player like Tank Bigsby was last year, I guess just what's the process like, and how do you go about trying to get him to continue to grow and develop into an even better player after he had so much success in just his first year?
Well, I think it's the expectations that you put on the player, and that expectation doesn't change of what you got to do on a daily basis, whether you had success the play before, the game before, the year before, and you're constantly trying to push them to where they get better. And the thing I'll say about Tank, he's a guy that similar to Bo Nix, is he's constantly calling every day. He's FaceTiming. He's wanting to know about certain run schemes, about protection. He's wanting to know about plays that we have in, how he can get better. He is not, I would not say he's complacent at all. He doesn't think he's arrived. And that's our job as coaches, to continue to push guys. But the great ones have it in them. They always want to get better. They always want to push themselves, and Tank has that in him, and that makes your job a lot easier when guys like Tank are hungry to get better. I mean, I was over here yesterday scripting for today's practice, and he's coming over here to see Coach Cadillac, to talk some ball. Just showing up in his office to make sure he's on the same page. He's calling Coach Friend. He's calling Coach Harsin. He's calling me. He's serious about wanting to be the best player he can be, not just for himself but for Auburn.
Brian Matthews.
Hi, Mike. Brian Matthews, AuburnSports.com, part of the Rivals Network. Wanted to ask you about your situation at the two tackle positions. How do you see it so far? Is that an area that feel like you need to improve as spring practice goes on?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an area. Again, we've only had 3 days. We're throwing a lot at these guys, from run game to pass game, and there's some definitely things that we need to work on. We need to clean up some of our sets, in the pass game. But we need some competition at the tackle position. Jackson and Ham are working with the ones right now, and then you've got Trotter and 55. My names right now, I'm getting them. I'm knowing them by what's 55's name there, Kirk? Right tackle. What's it? Say? Coffee. Yeah, Coffee. Then you got Zerline, the kid. So we've got some guys that got some length, but we've got to, it's getting the guys to do the little things right. And I don't think we're in a position right now to say, hey, we've got competition right there, because they're all trying to figure out, right from left right now, and the pass sets that Coach Friend won't. But ultimately, we want to create some competition and have a competition at that tackle position. But, they got to be able to protect at the tackle position first and foremost, and that's something that we'll be working on hard this spring.
Gianna Hahn.
Hi, Gianna Hunt from AL.com. Going back to your very first question that you got about you working with Harsin, I was wondering, what are some of the new things that you've learned from working with him and working with another guy who has been offensive coordinator, has worked with quarterbacks?
Well, I mean, there's a lot that is similar. When you sit down and you talk about, things from, how you do your individual drills to how, you're progressing certain route concepts to run game. There's a lot more similar than guys think, but there's a lot of nuances of things that he might have taught a little bit different that, I say, hey, that's a little bit better idea. And it might sometimes be the way that he phrases it to get it over to present it to the quarterbacks or present it to the offense. That's a little bit different. Then it might be something that, I've done in my past that's maybe a little bit different, that sounds a little bit better. So that's kind of what we're working through right now. The big thing is we want to be on the same page with everything. We don't need two different things told to the quarterback or the offense. We might be saying the same thing, but saying it 2 different ways. That's the thing we're working on right now, that we're speaking the same language. The thing that I'd say, is from Coach Harsin, the detailed and, how you get ready for your meetings and the preparation for your meetings and having prepared for your quarterbacks. And I've always considered myself a pretty detailed guy in the meetings. The presentations of how he presents things in meetings is something that I've learned, and I think I've improved in that area the short time I've been here with Coach Harsin.
Philip Marshall.
Hi, Philip Marshall, 247 Sports. Having been a head coach yourself, how valuable is that, coming back to being a coordinator?
Well, I think you realize that the things that Coach is going through right now as a new head coach at a new school, and we don't see everything that he's doing, but Coach Mason and I talk about it a lot. We know he's got a lot on his plate, so being in that role that he's going through, we know some things that he's having to do that he's not telling the staff that we got to be able to handle for him, and I think that's the value in it, that He hired you to do a job, but we know that he's got a lot of things going on other than football that entails being a head coach, especially at a place like Auburn University, where we can pick up the slack for him in areas without him having to ask us to do that.
Jason Caldwell, go ahead, Phil.
Does having overseen the whole thing give you a better understanding of defenses even, and more so even than just being a coordinator?
No, there's no question. Not just defense, but defense, special teams, everything that you got to do to put together, a football program from the weight room, the nutrition side, the recruiting side. Obviously the football side. When you got defense and special teams, I think it gives you a better understanding of what you're trying to do, and I think it helps. It helps you now when you're back. Just offense, you understand the big picture a little bit better now that you've been exposed to everything else that's going on. When I was just offensive coordinator, I was focused on my world, and that was coaching quarterbacks at my side of the ball. Now being a head coach and going through those things, you see a bigger picture and understand things a little bit better.
Thanks.
Jason Caldwell.
Mike, you mentioned, talking about Bo and Tank. How valuable is it that two of your more talented guys are those two guys that are always seeking out? How valuable is that when you're talking about the rest of the team watching those two guys work?
Well, I think I've made that point to our staff, and I think I made it to Coach Harsin, a month or so ago. Is some of our hardest workers are the ones that are considered, our better players right now coming into spring ball. Is you wouldn't know that by how they work, and usually that's the case. The best players are the hardest work, but these guys, every single day, how they approach their workouts, how they go about their business. How they're serious about in the meetings, to learn the questions. I think it's they're setting the right example. For the other guys on the football team, the other guys on offense. When Papo's like that on defense, the way he works, the way he goes about his business. I think that's when you come into a program and you're looking for guys and looking for players to hang kind of what you're doing on them and let them carry the torch. Guys like that are the ones that you want doing that.
Quickly, Javarius Johnson, you mentioned him. How big is it to have a guy that can create space in the middle of the field like that, and a guy that can create separation?
Well, I've been pleased with him, and I don't day one I don't know if he got as many reps in practice one. Maybe got some personnel groups and formations we were in, but day 2 and 3 he showed up, and the bottom line is when you get out there, you notice guys on tape because are they coming off the ball, are they creating space, and then making plays, and he has made plays in 2 days, and I think it's his ability to get off the ball with speed and urgency and put pressure on the defense, and that's the thing we got to get out of all these receivers is exploding off that football, creating stress on the defense, whether we're running a 6-yard route or we're running a 9 route, which is a go ball, a takeoff. It needs to look the same every time. Whether we're run blocking, we got to explode off the ball, and he's been able to do that the last couple practices, and been our playmaker of the day for the last 2 practices because of his ability to do that.
Justin Ferguson.
Mike, I wanted to ask you about your first impressions of J.J. Pegues, and have you ever had a guy quite like him in the past to be as athletic he is at his size?
No, I've seen some athletic guys like that. They're athletic and move and have short area quickness, but they were playing, D-line, but not playing tight end. I've coached against and coached with or on the same team with some D linemen at other schools that were like that. But this guy's, he's that guy that you always say, hey, this guy could play tight end. Some D lineman sometime he could play tight end. He's that athletic. He's like one of those guys, and we're moving him around a lot and playing him in a lot of positions. And Coach Bedell's done a nice job with teaching him. He's been very, very diligent in how he's approached learning what to do. It's a lot different. He was just an off-the-ball guy last year. He's being off the ball and on the ball for us. So some new stuff for him. But he is athletic, and he's over 300 pounds. So he's going to be able to move some people at the point of attack, and he's going to be able to get out and run routes and stretch the field vertically too. He can do that. The thing for him is just getting in shape where he can do it for a whole game. But been pleased with JJ and his how he's worked, and you're right, he's the true definition of an athletic big man.
Coach, we're going to take a few follow-ups. Nathan King.
Hey, Mike, a guy like Demetrius Davis, I don't know how much you necessarily recruited him or knew him before you were here at Auburn. Obviously, it's early. But what kind of potential do you see from him, and what kind of intangibles has he sort of shown you so far in the quarterback room?
Well, I think it's kind of unfair to really judge D. Davis right now, or really, because here's a kid that's a mid-year guy, has come in, and it's a whole new offense. And I've coached a lot of mid-year quarterbacks over my career, and really, you're just trying to through this spring ball as you're coaching a mid-year quarterback, you're trying to get them in position where they'll be able to compete in the fall. It's a lot of learning, it's a lot of teaching, it's a lot of understanding everything from how to take a snap to snap count to the way you use your voice and cadence. It's a lot of things that he hasn't done, or other quarterbacks that I've coached haven't done. And you're just trying to make them continue to feel comfortable. So when they do go out there and they start to get more reps, that they go out there confident and not afraid or not worried that they might make a mistake, and trying to put him in a position where he can go out there and be confident. He does have a good throwing motion. He's got a strong arm. He is he's a thick young man. I know he's only 5'11"ish. But he's a yoked up 5'11". I think he's like 210 pounds. So he's sturdy. He pulled one down and ran it the other day, and nobody really wanted to hit. I think he ran into somebody, and they kind of bounced off of him. The thing for me is try to get D to be more confident right now, and that's going to take time. It's a process. He's in a room with a guy like Bo Nix, who's his third year and is hungry and asks questions, is nonstop, blah, 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 and it's kind of overwhelming, not just for D, but for a lot of guys sometimes when, you're trying to figure it out, you don't understand some things, and it's my job to get him in a place where he can go out and compete. And as practice goes, he'll continue to get more reps, but the thing for him is getting in a place where he can go out there and be confident in everything he does.
Justin Ferguson. Jordan Hill, my fault. Jordan Hill.
Yeah, Mike, I had a chance to talk to Hudson Mason, and he remembered one spring there at Georgia, Coach Harsin coming and spending a few days. How far back does that relationship go, and just how appealing was this opportunity to be able to work with him here at Auburn?
Yeah, that was either in I think it was 2011 or 2012. I think the year before, Coach Fran and I went to Texas to see them practice, because Coach Brown had hired Stacy Searles away from Georgia. So we went out to Texas, and that's the first time I met Coach Harsin there. Got to sit in his meetings, and I showed him when we got here. I pulled out some old notes, and I showed him some notes I still had from sitting in his quarterback meetings when he was at Texas. And then I think it was the next year he came, and maybe just spent a day there, and he was on his way to the Falcons, I think, to see Coach Dirk Cutter, who was the OC at the Falcons at the time. And you have that happen all the time. Guys will come in, and that's kind of where relationships start. So we got to sit in each other's quarterback rooms and talk a little bit of ball. And then having played with him, played against him for 5 years when I was in the Mountain West at Colorado State, had the utmost respect for how his teams played. And I've always been impressed with his quarterback position. They know where to go with the ball. There's not a lot of wasted movement in their drops. They're decisive in their decisions. And that's what you want out of your quarterback, to be decisive, know where to go with the ball, and be very, very efficient. And always been impressed with that. And I never, I didn't think the phone was going to ring and it would be Coach Harsin say, hey, you interested in coming coming to Auburn. But when he did call, the respect I have for him and the football coach that he is, not just offensively, but the kind of team that he had at Boise. They were tough. They expected to win every time they stepped on the field, and they carried. You could feel that from them when they came on the field. And then, to be able to come to a place like Auburn with the tradition that Auburn has, I just really couldn't pass it up.
Coach, we're going to take two more quick ones. First, Mark Murphy, and then we'll wrap up with Philip Marshall.
Is it much of a challenge not having a lot of running backs to work with this spring? Only two guys back who actually carried the ball in the game last year.
Well, we do. Yeah, there's they're going to get a lot of reps, but we do have some. Devin Barrett is now at tailback, and we've got some other guy. Jay Sharp has got a lot of reps. Number 44, I believe, he's a walk-on for us, but done a nice job. We've got a couple other guys that have done a nice job. It's been pretty easy here the first three. We haven't, everything's kind of been tag tempo, even though we were in shells. We're going to be in full pass today, and we're going to have a couple, plays that are going to be live, and we're going to have some wrap, which is basically we're going to thud them up. So as that goes on, we start banging these running backs more and more this spring. It causes a little bit area where you've got a little concern. And so we got to be smart. We're all competitive, and you won't get Tank or Sean out there, but we got to roll these guys, and we got to keep. They got to get reps. They got to get the action. That's part of playing football. But at the same time, we got to be smart and roll these other guys that we got here for spring ball.
Philip?
Mike, back to coming here. You grew up not far from Auburn, not too far from Auburn. You played against Auburn. Just talk about your impressions of Auburn and what you thought of Auburn growing up.
Yeah, well, my dad sent me. They're moving. My dad lives in Raven County, up in North Georgia, and they sold their house and they're moving to Thomasville. That's where my sister lives now. That's where I grew up in Thomasville, Georgia. It wasn't far from Auburn, but they were cleaning out the house. They found a picture of me with a big sign that said Pat Dye Football Camp, and there was a picture of me at Pat Dye Football Camp when I was in 4th grade. So I grew up kind of, coming to Pat Dye Football Camp. My dad coached in Rome, Georgia, up till I was in 4th grade. And Neil Calloway recruited Rome at that time and signed Eric Floyd, who played here for Auburn Tigers. So he got me come to Auburn's football camp when I was in the 4th grade. And then I moved to Thomasville in the 5th grade. And I think from 5th, 6th, 7th grade, I came to Pat Dye Football Camp from Thomasville over here. And then it was Steve Dennis that was recruiting my school that recruited Thomasville High. So I've got a lot of memories from Auburn. They used to take care of my dad. They used to take care of all the high school coaches. They'd have bird hunts and quail hunts, and my dad would get invited and had a big time. But we were only 2.5 hours away and came and watched them practice a lot. Over here, it was a lot closer than it was Athens, which was 4.5. So I have a lot of memories from Auburn. It reminds me of some of those South Georgia towns, where it's football in the community. I think that's kind of what Auburn is football in the community. And, I think this is the ultimate college town when you think about Auburn University.
Thanks.
All right, Coach. Thank you for your
All right,
time.
guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it.